So this video is on Chapter 4, MA, homework number 12.5, graphing sine and cosine functions for Monday, May 17th. So let's fill out all the information here. Okay, so on this, the amplitude is 10. The vertical shift is -2. The period is 2 pi over 5, because that's our B. And my phase shift is pi. That's where we're going to start. So I'm going to be starting at pi. Okay. I am going to be adding the period, which is 2 pi over 5. And we're going to end up at, I can make this into a 5 pi fifths. So we're going to end up at 7 pi fifths. So we're starting at pi and we're going to end at 7 pi fifths. So let me draw my graph. I'm going to be starting down at -2. Let's say this is -2. I'm going to be going 10 below that. So let's say -12 and 10 above that. So let's say 8. That is going to be where I have my vertical shift right here, and my amplitude of 10, I'm going to go up to 8. I'm going to go down to -12. And then when I am scaling this, again, we're starting at pi. So let me just label this pi. I'm going to write pi up here. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We always graph 5 points. And I'm going to end at 7 pi fifths. And I am dealing with a positive sign. So I am going to be, sign starts at my zeros. So I'm going to start here and end here on my vertical shift. Halfway in between is also another 0. It's a positive 10, so I'm going to be going up first and then down. And that is going to be our sine graph. Okay, on number 2. Okay, so we're dealing with a cosine here. So my amplitude is 7. My vertical shift is 3. My period is going to be 2 pi over 6, which is going to be pi thirds. And my phase shift is a -5 pi fourths. So let me just figure out where I'm going to go. So I'm going to be starting here at -5 pi fourths. I'm going to be moving pi thirds away. Oh, sorry, I wrote 2 pi thirds. Sorry, pi thirds away. And I'm going to add this together. So common denominator is going to be 12. So let's see, that's going to be a -15 pi twelfths plus 4 pi twelfths. We're going to end at a -11 pi twelfths. So we're starting at a -5 pi 12. Oh, sorry, -5 pi fourths. And we're going to end at a -11 pi twelfths. Okay, and for my graph, okay, hold on. So I'm going to be on the negative side. So let me put it more this way. Let's see, I'm going to be starting 3 above. So let me drop this a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to be starting at, let's say 3. I'm going to go 7 above that. So let's say 10. And I'm going to go 7 below that. So let's say -4. And so here's my vertical shift. That's where my zeros will be. And this is going to be my high and my low. I am going to be starting at a -5 pi force. So let's say that this is a -5 pi force. Always plot 5 points. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's say this is a negative 11 pi 12. So that's where I'm going to end. It is a cosine graph. And so my cosine starts at my high, ends at my high. Halfway in between is a low. Halfway in between that are my zeros. And that's going to be my cosine graph. Remember, it is a curve. It's part of a sine graph. Okay, let's take a look at number 3. And this is a +2 here that got cut off on my copy. Okay, so for this, the amplitude is 14, positive 14. Always absolute values of it. My vertical shift is 2. Period is 2 pi over 8, which is pi force. Phase shift is 9 pi sevenths. Okay, so we're going to start at 9 pi sevenths. I am going to add my period, which is pi force. And so we're going to have, let's see, 36 pi 28ths plus 7 pi 28ths. And we're going to end at 43 pi 28ths. That's where we're going to end. So when we're doing this, let me get this. Let's see, I'm positive. I'm starting up at 2. Okay, so let's say that that is 2. I'm going to be going 14 above that. So let's say 16. 14 below that. So that's going to be negative 12. And I'm going to have my vertical shift here. My high is going to be 16. My low is going to be negative 12. When I'm scaling my x-axis, I'm going to be starting at, make this a little bigger here. Okay, I'm going to be starting at 9 pi sevenths. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We always plot 5 points. I'm going to end at 43 pi 28ths. This is a sine graph. So my sine ends at 0. So I'm going to start here, end here, halfway in between, also a 0. It's negative. So instead of going up first, I'm going to go down and then up. And that's my graph. Okay, so number 4. Okay, so number 4, my amplitude is 4. My vertical shift is none. My period is 2 pi over 1/2, which actually is going to be 4 pi when I do that math. And my phase shift is a negative 3 pi. So I'm going to be starting at negative 3 pi. I am going to be going 4 pi away, and I'm going to be ending at pi. Let's see. So I'm going to start on the negative side, end on the positive side. Got to kind of pay attention, make sure my y-axis is one of my values if I'm going to plot it. In this case, I believe it is. Let's see. Also, no vertical shift. So, Okay. The highest I'm going to go is 4. The lowest I'm going to go is -4. So my vertical shift is here. High, low. I'm going to be starting at -3 pi. So, whoops, let me get, sorry, wanted black. Okay, so -3 pi. So that's 1, 2, 3. This y-axis would be 4, and then 5 is going to be pi. And then we're going to plot it. I am dealing with a negative cosine. So cosines is either high to high or low to low. Because this is negative, it's going to be low to low. Halfway in between is going to be a high, and halfway in between that is going to be a 0 and a 0. And that's my graph. Okay, on number 5, sine graph. Okay. Amplitude 5, vertical shift -4. Period is 2 pi, and phase shift is a -7 pi 6. So we're going to start at a -7 pi 6. We're going to go 2 pi away. And so when I'm doing that, let's see, that's going to be -7 pi 6 plus 12 pi 6, which is going to put me off at 5 pi 6. Okay. So when we're plotting this, let's say I'm going to start on the negative. I need to drop down, so I'm going to start on the negative. So let's say that this is a -4. I'm going to go 5 below that. So let's say -9, and 5 above that, which would be a +1. So let me just kind of get that going here. So this is my vertical shift, my high and low. And to make sure that I choose my right values for these, I'm going to space it by 6. Since I'm on the negative side to the positive side, I'm not going to label like the not like the unit, the radians for all of them, but for the first and the last. But let's see, I'm going to have these be 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's going to be -7 pi 6. Let me make that a little smaller. Let's write that whole thing smaller. Okay, so -7 pi 6. And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's going to be a +5 pi 6. Okay. And I am doing a sine graph, which is going to go 0 to 0. So I'm going to start here. Maybe I'll make that a little smaller so it doesn't cover up my 6. I'm going to start here and here. That is 12. So I'm going to go 6 in. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to put me here. And then halfway between that, 1, 2, 3, that is going to be my high. And 1, 2, 3, that is going to be my low. And that's my graph. So I scaled it by 6. Oops, what am I doing? I put my low on the wrong one, sorry. my low needs to go down here. Let's see. So 1, 2, 3, right here. Sorry. Okay. So let me draw this line again. Okay. So there is our sine graph. Okay, now let's try the ones on the back side. Okay, so giving this one's a little bit more complicated. So on this, amplitude is 20. Vertical shift is -10. Period is going to be 2 pi over 2/3. So that's 2 pi times 3 over 2, which is going to be 3 pi. That's going to be my period. And the phase shift is pi fifths. Okay, I'm going to do the math up here above. So I'm going to be starting with pi fifths. And I'm going to be going 3 pi away. And so that's really going to be pi fifths plus 15 pi fifths, which is going to end at 16 pi fifths. Okay, since it's all on the positive side, I'm not going to draw 16 fifths. I'm going to do my start and my end as part of my 5 values. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to drop this a bit. Okay, so let's say that this is -10. I'm going to go 20 below there, which means I'm going to be at a -30, and 20 above here, which means I'm at a 10. Okay, pretend I spaced that more evenly. Okay, so this is my vertical shift, my high, my low, and when I'm going to scale, let me scale it with the thinner. Okay, I'm going to be starting at my pi fifths, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, I don't need to label all those radians, but it's going to end at 16 pi fifths. So that's where it's going to end. And then we're going to plot this. So it is a cosine, which should start high to high or low to low. High to high in this case, so I'm going to go high to high. Halfway in between is going to be my low, and halfway between those are going to be my zeros. And there you go. On number 7, okay, my amplitude is 10, my vertical shift is 6, my period, it is the 2 that's inside the parentheses, that's going to be my B, so 2 pi over 2 is pi, and my phase shift, I need to work out 2x minus 3 pi equals 0, which means x is going to be 3 pi halves. So this is going to be 3 pi halves. So we're going to start at, let me do it over here, 3 pi halves. We're going to go pi away, and pi in terms of halves would be 2 pi halves. So I'm going to end at 5 pi halves. Okay. So I'm on the positive side. I'm going to drop this down a little bit because I'm going to start up at 6. Okay, I'm going to go 10 above that, so that's going to be 16. I'm going to go 10 below, so that's going to be -4. I'm going to start at 3 pi halves, and I'm going to end 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at 5 pi halves. So let me label that. Okay, so this is going to be 3 pi halves and 5 pi halves. And so here's my vertical shift. Oops, I was going to make it a little more transparent. Here's my vertical shift. My high, my low, and then it is a sine. So my sine starts and stops at my zeros. So I'm going to start, stop here, halfway in between. And then since it's positive, halfway is going to be up, and then the other one's going to be down. And here's my graph. Now, 8 is kind of going to be getting us ready for some of the ones we're going to see when we start doing some modeling with these things, some word problems. And the same with some of the graphs below. Okay, so on this, amplitude is 5. Vertical shift is a negative 35.5. My period, so this is going to be 2 pi over 2 pi thirds. Anytime we have a pi as our b, our period is not going to have pi anymore. It's going to be just normal numbers. So it's going to be 2 pi times 3 over 2 pi, which actually is just 3. Okay. And my phase shift is none. Okay. So starting on the positive side, dropping this down to a negative 35.5, going 5 below that, which is going to be a negative 40.5, going 5 above that. I might just move this up a little bit more, be a little more realistic with it. Okay. And going 5 above that, which is going to be a negative 30.5. That's where my graph is going to be. So let me draw in my vertical shift, my high and low, and then I'm going to scale this. We're starting at 0 because we don't have a shift, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's going to be 3 because my period is 3. And then I'm going to draw my graph, which is a cosine. So for a cosine, it's high to high or low to low. Since this is positive, it's going to be high to high. Halfway is a low, and halfway between those are my zeros. And then I'm going to graph it. And there's our cosine. So on the last ones here, these ones are the ones where we have to write the equations. Okay, and we can either do a sine or a cosine. Really just depends on what you, which you think is easier for you. Okay, so my high here, and that looks like that's at a 2.5. My low is at a negative 2.5, which means halfway between those is going to be my vertical shift, which is at 0. Okay, so that means my K is 0. And I also have that my A is going to be 2.5, maybe negative, maybe positive. And let's see. I honestly could do any of these. Let's do I think I'm going to do a sine here. So let's say I go from here to here. And so that period is 6 pi. And so that means when I'm trying to work this out, It's going to be 6 pi is equal to 2 pi over b. So that means my b is going to end up being 1/3 is going to be my b. And let's see. Got my A, my K, my B, and then I'm starting at 0, so I've got everything I need. So my equation, I'm going to write it down here, y is equal to, I'm going to do a positive 2.5 sine 1/3 x, and that's my equation. Okay, let's take a look at B. Oops. Okay, so let's see. High at 2. I'm just going to drop this for myself. Okay. This is down at -2. So vertical shift is at 0. Okay, so that means my K is 0. My A is going to be 2, or maybe it's going to be negative if I'm, depending on how I'm graphing. And looking at this, I'm going to do this, starting there, this sine. And I could have done a cosine also. I'm going to go here to here, and that's a period of 4. So 2 pi over b equals 4. So that means my b is going to be 2 pi fourths or pi halves. That's my b. Okay, that's my b. And my phase shift is going to be 0 because I'm going to start at my 0. So I'm going to go y equal, and mine is going to be negative because I'm going down first. Sine of pi over 2 x, and that's my equation. Okay, take a look at C. So on C, for this, okay, my high is going to be -1, low -5. If I add those together, I get a -6. Divide by 2 because we do average. We get a -3. So that's my vertical shift. So I know my K is -3. And let me switch it up this time. Let me do it as a cosine graph. So let me say I start here and I end here. I can do that and do it as a cosine. That means my H is going to be -3. So I'm going to start at -3. And let's see, my period is from -3 to 1. So that's going to be 4. So again, that's going to be 2 pi over b equals 4, which again, when I work that out, is going to be 2 pi fourths or pi halves. That is my b. So if I'm doing this as a cosine graph this time, starting here, this is going to be y equal positive, and let's say I didn't do my a, sorry, my a is going to be 2, and it's going to be a +2 because I'm going to go high to high, cosine pi halves, and I'm starting at -3, so it's going to be x plus 3, and we dropped it down, so that'll be a -3, and that would be our graph, our equation. Again, I chose to do this one as a cosine this time. Could have done the other ones as a cosine if I wanted. The A is going to stay the same always, but it might be a different sign. Your B would be the same. Your phase shift would change, but your K would also be the same. Okay. So on this one, again, let's take a look. So let's see. High at 1, low at -5. Oops. So if I average those, so add them together, divide by 2, I get -4 divided by 2, which is -2. And that's here. I can also count, but sometimes it might be hard. So you would just average your high and low, and that's going to be your middle. Add them up, divide by 2. Okay, so I know my K is going to be a -2, and my A is going to be a 3 or maybe a -3. And let's switch it up again. Let's say I start over here. Okay, let's say I start here at 1, and let's say I have it as a cosine. Okay, so that means my H is going to be 1. My period, I'm going from 1 to 7, which is going to be 6. So it's going to be 2 pi over b equals 6, which means 2 pi 6, or my b is going to be pi thirds. So my equation is going to be y equal positive, because I'm going to go high to high. So +3 cosine pi thirds, and I'm starting at 1 here. So it's going to be x minus 1 minus 2. So again, this is a possibility. Don't have to do it like this, but it's one possibility. So hopefully this helps.